Good morning. You might be asking yourself what the Minister of State Assets has to do with climate, with transformation, with transition, and with all the matters that we are going to talk about. Well, a lot. The Minister of Climate, Anna Moskwa, will speak after I finish. She is in charge of the energy transformation. She is in charge of the energy transformation when it comes to the general nationwide aspects and legal aspects. But in practice, this comes down to companies, energy companies, companies in the power industry. Today, on a daily basis, they determine what our climate will be like and how we will take care of our planet. We need to take care of the environment, and we need to take care of the world which has been put into our care. So we need to take care of it so that we hand it over to next generation and not in a condition which is not worse than now. We shouldn't make our planet worse and the environment. It's a common knowledge that we should improve the condition of the planet. The only difference between us is how to get there. In the media, in society, it's usually believed that taking care of the climate, of the environment, is something typically that the leftists do. For decades, we've had the left, the green, and this used to be seen as something which doesn't fit into the conservatist worldview. The conservatists used to be said that they don't care about the environment, and we need to change that. We need to show that this is not true, and we need to show our commitment, because our commitment is extremely important. Taking care of the planet, of the environment, is often ideologically tainted, which means it doesn't focus on human beings, on the reality. It's often about bringing about changes very fast without taking into account the circumstances to reach the goals, but disregarding the human being on the way, which is, the human being is the most important part here, and how people can function in this environment. So we, the conservatives, want to get there as well, but we want to do it in a reasonable way. We want the energy transformation to be based on the following pillars. Energy security, because we have to have that as a state, as a society. We also have to take into account the capabilities of each state that is undergoing energy transformation, because it varies. And also, something very important, energy transformation cannot lead to poverty, because we might reach some goals, but we cannot lose sight of others on the way. So transformation is for people and not at the expense of people. Ladies and gentlemen, nowadays we see even more that these conservatist rules are very important to be put into practice. We have the war in Ukraine. We are witnessing an energy crisis now, which started before the war, actually, but it was a sign of what was going to happen, because before the war, some energy resources became very expensive. Take gas, and this was just a announcement of what was going to happen. Now we are witnessing these bloody and cruel events in Ukraine. So there is a need to apply sanctions, which are the only effective weapon in the world to stop the Russian aggression. And this is a great challenge ahead of us. A great challenge when it comes to the availability of resources and their prices. And hence the question, how shall we address the challenge? Some say we should accelerate these processes and further disregard the social consequences. But we say the following. Let's carry out the transformation, but let's not forget about this priority. Poland was right saying that we shouldn't depend on Russian resources. We should build pluralism in our supplies, and this is what we have been doing successfully for the last years. And also today we are right when we are saying that the energy transformation should be carried out in such a way that we enjoy social support, because otherwise, well, every process that is done against the expectations of society will fail and has to end as a form of dictatorship, a form of forcing solutions upon people, and this is something we certainly don't want. We need to be consistent in this process, and we are doing this because the Polish opposition often say, unlike what they are saying, Poland is investing heavily in green energy sources. The goal was to be 15%. Correct me, Madam Minister, if I'm wrong, but that was the goal, 15%. Now we are over 16% already, so we are above it. This proves that we've been consistent in it. But also we want this process to be also not too detrimental to society. Therefore, we are saying that we need to adapt the pace of the changes to our capacities. Well, because of some historical reasons, Polish energy sector is still reliant on coal to a large extent. So we need to adjust our strategies of phasing out coal because of the current situation I've just described. So instead of becoming heavily reliant on gas, because that was the suggestion for gas to become a temporary solution, but now it's not accessible. It's difficult as we are phasing out supplies from Russia. We know that we need to find a different way. This means that on the one hand, we have to slow down when phasing out coal. On the other hand, we have to opt for alternative energy sources. In this case, I mean nuclear energy. And we think that new technologies, SMR, for instance, are very promising in this case because we are also one of the leaders. Here we partner with foreign partners, mainly American partners. A few days ago, I held a conversation which was about nuclear energy, and it was about even smaller reactors. Smaller, meaning that they can also work at a very small scale and generate energy and heat for districts, for neighborhoods, for small towns. So this shows that this technology has been advancing very fast. So it's a plausible alternative to the current situation. Or to the suggestions of other people who are maybe more ideological than reasonable or sensible. Some time ago, I spoke to an important German politician. Well, he was persuading me that we needed to phase out coal, nuclear energy and gas as soon as possible. And I asked him, and how do you want to generate energy? And he took a long time to explain to me that renewables would be enough. But we think that we need an energy mix which will be clean, but also sustainable and secure for society. So the approach shouldn't be ideological, it should be practical. That's why we are concerned by what is going on in the EU, and we want to correct it. We want to have an influence on it, because we've been talking to our partners and saying them that imposing drastic measures is not something that is going to get us there. The Fit for 55 package and its solutions are not acceptable for Poland, because they would be very costly in a very short run. And first of all, Polish people would suffer great costs. And I don't only mean abstract costs or costs borne by energy companies or the state, but this cost would be suffered by every household, up to a few dozen thousand zlotys per person, per capita. So this is not something we can now sell to Polish people as something attractive, because this is not a sustainable proposition. The goals are attractive, that's right, but on the other hand, you have the costs. The costs are huge. Therefore, the final effect we want to reach is not as attractive. It's, the final goals are unacceptable by the Polish people. Therefore, we want to seek the change. We want to achieve a zero-emission economy, but we need to do it at a reasonable pace, at a reasonable rate, to avoid a situation where people would reject energy transformation as too costly for Polish families. And also, we need to do it in such a way that we keep our energy sovereignty. Today, there is one thing we see clearly, namely, energy is also part of a state's sovereignty. Energy, the power industry. Well, take Russia. Russia weaponizes energy and energy resources. Energy has become a weapon for Russia, for its policy, for its interests to make neighboring countries dependent on Russia, to oppress them. It's a tool to oppress them directly, or maybe to prevent them from responding the way they should respond to unlawful actions by Russia. Today, Europe is so careful. It's so reluctant to implement far-reaching sanctions against Russia, and this is also a consequence of the fact that Europe is very much dependent on Russian energy today. Despite big words, when it comes to actions, Europe is not capable of going that far. So we cannot accept that for the future. We cannot accept a situation where this dependence becomes stronger. So we cannot limit our energy capabilities in such a way that we become heavily dependent on a foreign country that would sell us energy, and in such a way that we become dependent on the country and we lose our sovereignty.
This is the task that stands ahead of us and ahead of Green Conservatives, that the transformation be organized this way and conducted so that it brings a good result, but also that the side effects would not be so heavy, so burdensome for states, for societies who decided to take the path of energy transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our task, and I'm convinced that the event that we are participating in today, this discussion, which will be ongoing in a very interesting panels, that this will bring us closer to the realization of this goal. Not only will we have a consistent vision that will be speaking with one voice, that will be sure that our vision is attractive, is good, and that others should follow us, but also that we will be able to persuade our society and that the changes in our lifestyle, the way we function, the changes in our surroundings, the way that we generate energy, is not something that has to be a burdensome problem for all of us. Excessive costs, the fact that we would have to be subject to some huge sacrifices. It can be done in such a way so that all parties of this huge process had the sense that the process is working towards their benefit. I hope that this Congress, and I wish that this will bring this intellectual potential, which will make it possible to achieve this goal in such a conservative way. Thank you very much.